Hey guys, it's Congressman Mike Garcia. I'm out here in D.C. Wanted to give you a weekend review of everything that's been going on here in Washington, D.C. and frankly around the country on a few issues. First of all, probably the biggest piece of legislation that we got through the House today, and I don't think a single member ended up voting against this, which was great, was the bill that would declassify all of the information leading into the investigation into the origins of COVID. Up until this point, all of that information has been held in a classified environment, which doesn't allow us to get to ground truth and allow more people to investigate and ultimately hold China accountable. You can check out our newsletter and our social media, but I gave a floor speech talking about why we need to declassify this information so that we can prevent this from happening in the future, but also hold China accountable. We also had an important hearing this week in the Intelligence Committee that I sit on. We had the Director of the National Security Agents, Director of the FBI, CIA, as well as a Defense National Intelligence Agency Director come and testify about all of the global threats that we as a country are facing. And you can watch my testimony in that hearing as well. But fundamentally, the biggest shock that came out of that brief was that they didn't really even talk about the crisis at our southern border. They didn't talk about the thousands of kilograms of fentanyl coming across our border each year, and the 100,000 Americans last year who lost their life as a result of those fentanyl poisoning. So to me, that was a glaring omission. It's very clear to me why our president keeps adhering to this open border policy. It's because his national security and intelligence apparatus within his cabinet isn't briefing him this issue as one of the primary threats to the United States, just like they didn't brief that to Congress this week. So you can go watch that. Glaring omission. We have to get tougher on the border. We saw it with the killing of Americans by cartels last week, innocent people taken by the cartels. I co-sponsored a bill that would actually allow for the use of military equipment and national intelligence assets to help us fight the cartels. And so we're going to continue to be aggressive on that front. Hopefully President Biden, as well as the President of Mexico, can be cooperative in this to help us put a boot on the throat of the cartels and secure our border and prevent people from dying from this fentanyl problem. We heard on the Hill this week testimony from a military member who was in Afghanistan the day 13 members were killed at the Kabul Karzai airport. Touching testimony about how he could see the bomber and he was able to shoot the bomber, but he didn't have rules of engagement in place that would allow him to actually pull the trigger and kill what would ultimately be the person that killed several hundred folks with this IED. Heartbreaking. He himself lost a couple of limbs as a result of this. And it just is a reminder that that Afghanistan withdrawal was a huge nightmare, debacle of stupendous magnitude. And the fact that we never turned operational control over to the Department of Defense, and it was kept under the Department of the Secretary of State's office the entire time, that was a fundamental flaw in that pullout, and that's why we saw the tragic lives lost of our military members. So just a reminder, and again, we saw articles this week about how we left $7.2 billion worth of weapons in Afghanistan in the midst of that hurried evacuation and failed evacuation. So this is a problem we're going to continue to investigate, get more testimony on, get to root cause, again, to hold this administration accountable, but also prevent future incidents like this from happening again. This week we also had the president's budget request come out. It came out over a month late. We were expecting it last month, but the president did submit his budget request to the U.S. Congress. And it's a whopper. It's a spending bill that will effectively swallow our economy. There's going to be a lot of chatter about this, but it increases spending by roughly $2.2 trillion overall. It continues the same open border policies and the funding for the open border policies that we've been seeing the last couple of years. And the real offensive thing is it actually would cut Social Security benefits by roughly 25%. So the president that's been claiming that the Republican Party was going to jeopardize your Social Security is actually putting a budget out that prevents it from staying whole and actually pushes the trust retirement trust fund to go bankrupt, which by definition yields a 25% cut in benefits. So this is very dangerous. We're going to fight this, obviously. It proposes a massive $31 billion tax hike on American energy companies, where, as you know, we are now paying 50% more in oil, gas prices, natural gas in our homes than we were just 2 years ago. These tax hikes will aggravate that problem. About $5.5 trillion in new taxes will be levied on small businesses who are just now starting to recover from COVID. So these are backbreaking figures, massive spending, tax hikes, cuts to Social Security. These are things that are obviously going to get addressed by the majority here coming up over the next few months. We will write our budgets, and you have my commitment that I will fight for lower taxes. We'll always fight to secure Social Security and Medicare, and do what's right for our troops, our law enforcement, and small business owners, and overall the security of our beautiful country. So stay tuned, subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already. We'll send out weekly updates as well via email, and God bless.